Hi there. What a day to be enjoying the final day of Mental Health Awareness Week. Yay! What a day it's been, y'all. Before I begin, I would like to say to everyone who still believes that the system is there to protect you, yay! Must be nice. I haven't been there in a very long time. If you are in a place where you are truly scared to go outside right now, that's valid. If you are so emotionally exhausted or overwhelmed by what's happening right now, that is valid. There are a million good reasons to not go outside and not run right now, which can be compounding any feelings of claustrophobia or anxiety that you were already feeling before, let's say, Wednesday night or Friday morning, when people who have unplugged from the news and from Facebook and have tried to really insulate themselves in the name of mental health became aware of some of the bigger things that are happening across the country right now. A lot of us live in places where we can opt out. Others do not. I'm not here to tell you what to feel or how to deal. I just want to validate that and remind you that whatever you're feeling is real, because that is a response to something that you're seeing. There is no right way to feel, but there is a right and wrong way to process it. So be really careful. Whatever you feel right now, contain it to people who either have as much or more privilege as you do, and be really certain of that. For example, don't call your Black friend and ask them to make you feel better, or to like give everyone a bit of space and be kind of respectful. You want to check in on people, that's one thing, but they are not here to process your feelings right now. And that's a very good thing to keep in mind. Okay. Everyone is feeling a little something right now, but a great person to call would be someone that you already know and feel safe enough to discuss these things with. Going to your friends of color to discuss really weighty race issues, not right now. Go to anyone if they don't have the same amount of privilege as you or more, then don't reach out. So that is my public service announcement. Everything else I have to say on this topic, I'm basically saying on my Facebook page. I am really crushed to see what's happening in Philadelphia right now. If you are in Philadelphia and you are near Center City and there's anything you could do to help me get supplies to Race and Franklin, the northwest corner, do let me know. Where tanks are moving into certain parts of the city and access is being cut off. It's really, really scary. Things are starting to escalate, and I've been trying since 2 o'clock this afternoon to organize deliveries of supplies to people who are providing medical care, the street medics, people on the ground. And they're basically asking if you are white and you can move through the city a little more freely than we can right now. It would be really, really great if you could use your privilege to bring us some stuff. I will Venmo you cash if you can help me get supplies to these people. If you don't want to get involved with that, that is totally cool. I understand that right now we'd be breaking curfew, and know that if you do this and you're doing this to help me out, we will post your bond as well. It's a very large network of people, and we're just having trouble getting through to Philly. It breaks my heart to see what's happening in Philadelphia. I went there for graduate school. My husband went there for undergraduate and graduate school. It's one of our favorite cities in the world, and it's just really, really hard. So I wanted to take a moment to say, if you are near the area and you are seeing the devastation, my heart is absolutely with you. Mine broke when I saw the building that I used to live in on fire last night on television, and the bank that I used to frequent completely destroyed, and 2 of my favorite restaurants on fire. I mean, it's a lot. It is absolutely a lot. So I'm here for that. I'm here for you, but I also really want to make it clear that what's happening in Philadelphia is very different than what's happening in the rest of the country. The unrest is not a coordinated action like a virus that's spreading from city to city. So be open when you're having these conversations with other people, because I can assure you what's happening in Denver right now is nothing like what's happening in Dallas or New York or Philadelphia or even LA. It's a very, 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 very different situation here. So to that end, thank you, Yusko. I really, really appreciate that. I'm thinking, I haven't seen big riots in Queens, but I'm always thinking of you when I see anything happening in New York, and the things that are happening in Brooklyn are just like, whoa. it's over the top. But I'm not here to bring everyone down. I understand that at this point in the weekend, you might need a little Coach MK to pick you up and carry you over and through this mess. And I'm going to do the best I can with that because it's been a long weekend for me too. And I'm not done yet. I got places to go as soon as I'm done with this broadcast, trying to get stuff done before our curfew starts at 8:00. So with that, let's start with some weekly wins, y'all. Which say, so weekly wins. Let me get that banner up, because it's just good to see that word. I need some wins right now. Robin Monique has had a good month of running and is enjoying the structure of the plan. Yay! I really appreciate that. I tell you, the less I have to think about these days, the better. Pat Humes is feeling awesome for getting back into running. Pat Humes, I feel awesome because I get to know you and I get to talk to you. And Pat is in Philadelphia, by the way. Big hugs for Pat. Lots of support for Pat. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that too. It's hard. Usually I don't get a lot of thanks for using my voice and speaking up, but I will take them as they come right now. In Rebuild, Christian Frazier has been doing some good work with her therapist that is carrying over into her life outside of the sessions. That's amazing. Everybody knows how I feel about therapy. I love therapy. I go all the time. And it feels like all the time. I go whenever I can. It used to be once a month. Now it's been like every other week. And we might even have to up that to twice a week at this rate. Yay, I'll take it. But you know what? That is a safe place for dangerous conversations, a time and place to look inside, do the introspective work, and explore what you're feeling and why. And I encourage everyone who has access to use it. If you do not think you have access, let's explore that. There's a lot that's out there, a lot of resources that are free. You might have access to more than you think you do. If you don't think you have access to therapy, reach out. I would love to connect you with some free resources. Okay, Christine is finding moments throughout the day to add in strength, like when she's supervising the kids in virtual school. Yay, Christine, that's amazing. I love it. You got to be a honey badger about things like strength and self-care, making sure that you take every opportunity as that opportunity arises. Sometimes we just can't plan it, especially in times like this. In Maintain, Trisha Thorne did a bit over 3 easy miles this morning for the first time. She's run 2 days in a row since May the 12th and felt mostly fine. That's amazing. She's happy that the changes she made to her home office setup, walking shoes, and listening to her body are bearing good running fruit. I am glad too. I am thrilled for you. I am thrilled for this. I love hearing good news. I needed it. Thank you, everybody, for throwing this in the pot. Carissa Hatling up in Montana is making a commitment to herself to foam roll every day. And I'm really grateful that she did that because it has inspired me to start a foam rolling challenge, a self-care challenge. And you're going to be hearing more about that after we finish fleshing it out. I got derailed. We were going to be talking more about that tonight, but I got derailed on Friday in a way I didn't see coming. And there went my weekend. So maybe next week or the week after. But we're going to be doing a foam rolling challenge real soon. So stay tuned for that. If you want to have a good idea. Thank you, Carissa, for inspiring me. Thank you. Yeah, I love all things Philly too, man. I'm glad you're 90 minutes away and you aren't anywhere near the devastation, to be perfectly honest. 90 minutes away lets me know that you're safe, and I need you safe because I love you, Pat. I do. Karen is recovering well enough from her Yeti challenge to add some strides into her runs at the beginning of the week. I know how you love those faster paces, Karen, so I'm really glad you're able to do some strides. Emily Sorensen ran before work, something she doesn't do very often, and felt proud of herself for getting her run done early. I'm proud of you too, lady. I tell you what, I've not been able to do an early morning run in so long. My legs don't have any pop in them until the middle of the afternoon, and I don't know why. I don't know if that is a function of anxiety, if that's a function of my changed sleep patterns. Now that, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, my husband is home all the time, and it's amazing. I get all my time with my husband. But he works till 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock sometimes at night, so my sleep patterns are off. But either way, I do miss my dawn runs. I really miss, especially this time of the year, getting up when it's still a little chilly outside and finishing when it's after it's toasty warm, because it changes that quickly in Colorado. So if you are running before work, before the sun, you are doing something that I love, and I'm jealous, and I'm proud of you. So yay, all of those sound like wins to me. Thanks again, everybody, for throwing your weekly wins in. I am going to request that next week, everybody get a little more aggressive about putting your weekly wins in, no matter what they are. Just tell us. We need good news to share. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be something that we can all say, yay! Because you know what? If you your Facebook is not going to be saying yay to you anytime soon, though we're going to try to have as much yay in the threads in the private Facebook groups as humanly possible. No, you cannot miss that. Go, go, go. We love you, Susan, and thank you. Yay, big yay, Carissa. Thank you. Someone does watch us on YouTube. Thank you for letting me know that. That's really exciting. We've been doing these live streams on YouTube because we have a lot of people, a lot of clients who do not use Facebook. So I tried Twitch for a really long time, and then Twitch made some changes to the coding that don't work so good with this. And this is really the platform that I prefer to use. StreamYard, that is, because I can have the branding up here in the corner and it looks real cute. So all of that, I tell you that to tell you this. That makes me really happy. I'm glad to know that the YouTube streaming is useful. So yay for that. Now moving on to the questions. Change the banner. And show that. There we go. Sorry, it took me a second. Build and rebuild, by the way, are basically two halves of the same whole, but they are separate communities. So I'm going to start with build, then I'm going to move over to maintain, and then I'm going to take the questions from build at the end. Sorry to make you guys wait, but usually, this is the way things flow. The questions for build tend to be a little more complex or require something longer than a tweet to answer. Everything when on nights like this, when I'm a little bit pressed for time, sorry, I'm just getting messages all over the place. When I'm a little bit more pressed for time, I can get through the questions and rebuild and maintain a little more expediently. Yet, that might not be the case tonight, just looking where all the questions came from. Yay! There we go. So, forgot we are also putting this part of the podcast. If you are new to the broadcast, my name is Coach MK Fleming. I'm the founder of the Fitness Protection Program, and we offer, it is one subscription, $30 a month, gets you access to 3 suites of programs, and you can move back and forth in between them as you please without needing any assistance, permission, or changeovers. You have everything you need at your fingertips for the duration of your life as a runner. So Rebuild is a program for people who are returning to running after a period away. It was designed to leverage existing muscle memory while we redevelop the running habit and all the little habits necessary to support the bigger running habit, because we all know it's not just one habit. It's remembering to lay your clothes out the night before and charge your Garmin and have your route planned out and it's a lot. It can be a lot, and it can be a little overwhelming while you take the time that you need to rebuild your best practices manual for your own personal running habit. We are here to support your running while you ease back into it with minimizing frustration and maximizing the overall experience. Maintain is a program for people who already have a modicum of fitness that they would like to maintain. You only need 10 weeks to ramp up for a full marathon if you maintain the way that we do. And you can do a half marathon every month if you want, because when you maintain the way that we do, we really don't have to train the way that you are used to training. Matter of fact, if you did that, you'd be losing fitness at the end of each cycle, and that just doesn't make sense now, does it? Finally, Build is an on-ramp. It is a specialized program. It is 3 months long. It is separate from the rest. What we wanted to do is have a gateway that gets you used to the way I do things. Originally I thought it was going to be just people who are brand new to running, but we've got a motley crew in there, people who are either new to running or new to training the way that I do. Either way, it has been an absolute delight to have everyone in the same place and getting them up the curve together. So if you are enjoying Build, or if Build sounds like fun for you, just know that we will be opening another funnel into Build relatively soon, starting in July. But between now and then, you're going to have to wait. It's a program that you can purchase in a 3 or 12-month package. And then from there, go into the month-to-month subscription. Now, here are the questions from our clients in Rebuild. If, by the final comment, if you're watching this live, feel free to drop any comments or any questions that you have, any follow-up questions, even if the follow-up questions are not to a question that you have specific. If you are here, you can talk to me. This is designed to be interactive. Go ahead and throw any comments or questions that you have in the comments. I'll bring it on the screen and interact with you. So first question in Rebuild, is easy pace the same as keeping heart rate under 140? Yes. One of the things that I learned immediately when I became a coach was that nobody really knows what easy effort is. So the heart rate cap, it's not a target, it's a cap, was designed to ensure that your easy runs are actually easy, which is why it can be such a shock to the system when I tell people to put on that heart rate monitor and keep it under 140. They're like, this isn't running. I'm like, yeah, it is. Jogging's running, Larry, and it's delicious. Enjoy it. So if you're like, well, I'm going at 120 and this feels fine, great. You're adhering to the rule. Whoop, whoop. Like I said, it's a cap. It's not a target. The problem is people are always, am I going hard enough is the wrong question. The question we need to ask ourselves on easy days is, am I going easy enough? And if you're under 140, I don't care where under 140 you are in a good place. Yay. I signed up for Rebuild this week. My question is somewhat of a two-parter. I compared Rebuild and Maintain plans, and it appears I fall more into lane 2, week 4 of Rebuild, week 1 of Maintain, with the exception of the long runs. Yep. I have not done a long run over 60 minutes in about a month. When I say run, I mean I use run-walk intervals. Is this okay? Or is the point to get to runs being continuous while also maintaining a heart rate under 140? Meaning, should I keep in Rebuild until my runs are continuous or while maintaining a goal heart rate? Or can I progress while doing run-walk intervals? Or can I fit in with Maintain? The question is yes. Sorry, the answer is yes, all of the above. Generally speaking, I get a lot of people from the Galloway programs, and I like the Galloway programs. I have nothing negative to say about the Galloway programs. But the Galloway programs are forever run walk intervals. And I'm not saying you are a Galloway runner, but this does have a point. So even if I lost you at Galloway, hang in there. I'm coming back around the mountain for you. All right. When it comes to those intervals, I wouldn't say specifically the goal is to leave them forever, but rather to show you what your body can do so you can make an informed decision. We do have a few people in these programs who are like, this is what I do. This is how I do it. And that will never change. And I'm like, cool. As long as on easy effort days, you're keeping the run portion under 140, I don't really care. I care more about what I don't want is to get someone who says, I'm a Galloway runner, I'm just fine, who has no regard for their effort ever, because a runner is a run and a walk is a walk. And I'm like, you could be walking really aggressively and not lower your heart rate from the run interval you just did. So I don't really care how you choose to break things up. I care that you're paying attention to your effort throughout while you do it and checking yourself every step of the way. So what's better really is what's going to be best for you. I say, why not go out for a run and see if you can do, let's start with the 30-minute run. If all you've been doing is intervals, and again, there's no shade to that. Let's start with seeing if you can go for 30 minutes tomorrow without needing any run walk intervals and keeping your heart rate under 140. A great place to start. Instead of thinking about, well, this has been the 140 pace I've been using, I'm like, let's go back and take an average pace from your last run walk interval set. Cut out, if you know how to use the analyze feature in Training Peaks, great, do that. Cut out the warm down and the cool up and just like highlight the space in between and on the right side of the screen, an average pace will pop up. Use that as your target pace and see what your heart rate does and try to keep it there. It will take a while to get used to, because you're not a machine. A lot of things are going to impact your heart rate, which in turn, some days you're going to be running faster at 140, other days will be slower, and it doesn't really matter. It's not like that's a measure of your fitness level changing. It can be a measure of your stress level changing and your sleep level changing. Heck, look at mine. Some days I'm at like 9:30, other days I'm at like 13:45. It really depends. So don't put a moralistic judgment on it. Don't look for progress there, and really, really, really try super hard not to stress out about it too much. Just know that let's start with 30 minutes easy effort, trying to keep your heart rate under 140. And if that's easy, and you're like, yeah, I could do that, then try 45 the next time. I would definitely want to not start with the long run. So if you haven't done the long run in a while, let's first focus on like, what do you want to do? Let's see what options are available to you. If you can do 30 minutes of continuous jogging without needing to throw in a run walk interval in order to keep your heart rate down, and you feel good with it and you want more, reach back out, tag me in the Facebook groups and tell me so, and we will talk. We will determine your best next step from there. The thing that I really don't want is for you to do too much too soon, because that doesn't really work out well for anyone. So, I'd say where you are is totally fine. Remember that what you're doing is okay. The question is, what do I want to do and why do I want to do it? And as long as we're not using a more is better mentality that shames you for where you are right now, I would say that anything coming out of that thought pattern is not going to be good for you. If you're like, yeah, you know what? I feel strong. I wonder if I can do this. That is what I'm going to support every single time. So there's no should. It's more like, what do you want to do? And let's take it from there. But if you don't really know what you want to do, let's start with that 30-minute continuous jog with your heart rate under 140. And if you're like, that sounds terrible, I don't actually want to do that, then I think you have your answer. Part 2 of my question is about a marathon I have scheduled in October. So by the way, to be really, really clear, after you've done that and kind of have an idea of what you want to do from there, then we'll talk about your long run. Okay. Part 2 of my question is about a marathon I've scheduled in October. It's a rescheduled marathon that was supposed to happen in May, but it was canceled. Prior to cancellation, I had built up to 19-mile run walks. And after I was informed it was canceled, I decided to run walk the 26.2 on the treadmill since I did the training. Cool. So I know I have the endurance to perform the distance, but is there a way to work on the above goals while also being able to prep for this marathon? I want to do it because I'm committed to it. I may never race again, but I'm learning racing is not the point, but I do want to do this one. That's okay. You don't ever have to defend it. But if the point is to run continuously, I don't think I can get there. Only if you want it to be is my answer. Thank you in advance, and thank you for this platform and welcoming environment. Yay, you're welcome. I'm really glad you found it. So I think I know who asked this question. She is one of our newest runners, and I absolutely love having when new people find us and come in here. So what do you need to get out of this is really the question you need to ask yourself. Thank you for bringing it up, Andrea. It's where I would want everyone to start, and every exploration of what now needs to start here. So when you mention the above goals, I really feel like there's a lot going on here, asking me more like what you should be doing as opposed to telling me what your goals are in particular. So I want you to, number one, my goals for you, that you actually treat running as self-care, and that is not happening. And if you are running really, really hard every day for no regard for what your activity, the toll that it's taking on your body, to get away from what you should be doing in order to justify being out the door, not working, for leisure time and to exercise. I want you to feel empowered to say, this is my act of self-care and I'm doing it. Get out of the way. Thank you. Bye. And making sure that you get that every day, which, I mean, it can mean you run every day, but there might be, I mean, on your off days, I still would like for you, especially now in time of coronavirus, to be getting out of the house, going for a walk, clearing your head, getting away from all the stress and the pressures that can exist when you move your office space into your house and no longer have that separation, especially if the kids are downstairs homeschooling or not, because summer. Yay. And finally, I want you to feel confident in what you're doing every single day. And if confidence for you right now comes from run, walk, great, awesome. If confidence is coming from finally, for the first time ever, seeing that, yeah, you can run unbroken and wanting to do more of that, great, do it. It's not about the right answer, but what we do today psychologically is going to be so much more important than planning for the race later. I promise you, if you're hanging out here and we're really honoring and listening to your body, race day is going to be fine. And spoiler alert, you might not run the whole thing, and that's okay too. The thing that breaks my heart for runners is that it might take 2 or 3 marathons or more before you understand your body, your fitness level, and can reconcile that with the demands of the event to the point where you can run the whole thing without needing to walk. It's not a failure on your part. There's a lot to synthesize, and no one really helps you do it. I do the best I can in helping people understand how to put those 3 pieces together, but it's not as simple as like, I passed, I failed, I'm fat, I'm terrible. And that's unfortunately what we break it down to. And I don't really like that. That's one of the many things that I really want to change about this experience for people, to make sure it's the most positive one possible. So let's think about that. Instead of saying, when you say prep for this marathon, I need to know, and I'm sorry to throw this back at you, what your idea of preparation means. I need to know the exact situation that would have you crossing the finish line and feeling like, well, I wasn't prepared for that. Because there will always be an element of it. And until you've done it, you don't know. But what we need to be able to say before we toe the start line is, did I do the best that I could? Not did I do everything, but did I make all the sacrifices I was willing to make? And if you missed your kid's birthday party to go for a run, I'd be like, why'd you do that? You could have run before or later. Like, maybe we're not doing this effectively. We're looking at this the wrong way. So too many people are doing things that they don't like, trying to do the right thing, trying to make the good choice. And so they're so worn out on race day that it doesn't go well. And then they cross the finish line feeling like their hard work was not rewarded in some way, completely unable to celebrate what they did. So think about the conditions that would have you crossing the finish line on race day, completely unable to celebrate what you just did or acknowledge your own badassery and the accomplishment that you just had. And then we can talk about how to prep for it. To me, I'm not going to consider it a failure if you DNS, that means did not start. If you DNF, which means did not finish, or if you walk a lot. There is no performance aspect here ever. It's about making sure that you get what you need to get each and every day, and that day includes race day. So until I really have a better understanding of what you need to get, I can't really answer about how to prep. And I apologize for that. I know that sounds really deep, and that's way deeper than a lot of people want to go, but I'm not here for the easy stuff. Yay, just the easy effort runs. I hope these come across as anonymous because this is my third and fourth question, but I'm so dang excited because I started this week and did a 90-minute run with my heart rate under 140, and it felt amazing. Yay, look at that. I think that answers the question about what to do for the long run then. I had to walk a lot, but my body never felt trashed, like I couldn't go on or didn't want to and wishing it was over. That's amazing. That's huge. That feeling, that with all the exclamation points, is what I want you to feel. It's what I want you to have. That is what we're going for. The breathe in 4 steps and breathe out 4 steps really helped me gauge my effort, and I was shocked at how slow I had to go. Normal. But I'm all for that if I can feel so good during the workout. Thank you for the tip. If the heart rate ever goes above 140 during an easy run, is the whole workout ruined? No, not at all. Sometimes mine would go into 140s, but never went above 155. And once I made pace adjustments, it fell right back down to the 120s. I'm still learning. Of course you are. And you're learning brilliantly. What matters is not what happens is that with a lot of overachievers, they were people who just describe themselves as type A and rule followers. They're still real selective about which rules they want to follow. They want to take everything as a rule, see a lot of conflict in between the rules, and then say, well, this is what I'm doing and I'm going, which is where the whole focus on mileage came from. Well, I have to do 5 miles. I'm not going to be comfortable with 4 or even 3.5. So the only way I can get like 8 miles done is if I run real fast because I'm pressed for time this morning. And so they end up racing their training. And I see that a lot. It's like, it was never about the mileage. It was about the time on your feet out jogging for aerobic. Never mind. So trying to get people to follow a different rule is really hard. And so I wrote everything to try to make that a little more clear so that this is the time I need you out there. This is the intensity I need you performing during that time. Don't go longer or harder than I ask you to. But if you're up there for like a few minutes, no, you didn't junk your workout. You only junk the workout if you're like, this sucks. I'm losing my speed. And you decide to do something totally different. It sounds here like you're genuinely doing the best you can, and you're not making fear-based choices based off of, other people on Strava who probably aren't that nice to you anyway. And that means you're winning at life and you're doing exactly what you need to do. You ruin nothing at all. I'm proud of you, actually. Really, really proud. This is harder than it sounds. One more question. I don't hate you. I never would. I hate nobody. Are the marathon ramp-up plan long runs based on mileage or time? Both. And I make a face when I say that because I have never been able to convince a marathon runner that they were fine without a 20-mile long run. I have been able to convince very few that they are fine without a 24-mile long run. So the marathon is a different beast, and the mentality is different too. So I have to reconcile what I'm asking a body to do versus what your mind is telling you need to have in order to feel prepared. So I'm not doing my job if I'm not balancing the physiology with the psychology for the recreational runner, because this won't be fun if you show up feeling unprepared everywhere you go, and everything outside of my sphere of influence is pushing you into a funnel and challenging you to race. And once in a while, you're going to do it because it's fun and you don't want to miss out. Yeah, you can totally run a marathon. The longest long run most people need, roughly, and we could do the math and do a whole podcast where we just do the math and talk about the why of the long run. But for elite runners, that number is 2 hours and 30 minutes. At 2 hours, but these are people also an elite runner is running comfortably sub 7-minute miles with heart rate under 140. They can actually do like a zone 1 run with a heart rate in the 90s. That's a recovery run. So I tell you that to underscore that you don't need what you think you do, but most of the wisdom out there would tell you otherwise. So the reason that I have 120-mile on there is to make people feel comfortable. And I learned the hard way that if there's only 1 on there, Murphy's Law, something's going to come up that day and you're going to miss it and then you're going to freak out. So I put 2 on there and then I put 3 on there. 3 opportunities to get your 20-mile done, not because you need them physically, but because that's 3 options, 3 opportunities to get 1 really long run done that arguably you don't need at all, but will not rest until you have done. So I know that is a very long answer, but I just got really tired of arguing with marathoners because if without that, are you sure? 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 Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are you sure? I'm really scared. Are you sure? Are you sure? I just got really I realized that what I was doing, saying, yes, this is enough, wasn't helping because it didn't calm them down. So out of attempt, not to placate, but definitely to make people feel comfortable and confident, I put a couple more long runs in there, but there's a lot more running than you need. And you're going to be so prepared when you show up. And hopefully, I like to say you're going to be over prepared, but not overtrained. How do you approach a runner who is looking at a 7-hour finish time in regards to the long runs? Number 1, remember, I named the marathon plan after you, Tenacious AF, and that is what you are. Doing one thing continuously for 3 hours, it's hard. Doing one thing continuously for 7 hours, way harder. And we don't really think of it in those terms. The terms that we use are really, really ugly. Like it's hierarchical. Faster is better. Slower is worse. Faster is better. Slower is fatter. And I resent it. Again, it's overly simplistic. It's the type of thinking that I might tolerate in my toddlers, but not in my older children. And so I'm not going to let my runners use that same line of logic to hold themselves back or to feel bad about themselves for what they're doing or what they've done. So to that end, what I would say to you is remember that everything you're doing is badass. So badass, seriously badass, and to not ever forget it. And I know you're not going to feel really comfortable with your long runs because you don't think that they're long enough. But think about this. How fit would you need to be for me to give you a 5-hour workout? You know, that's a really long workout. If we aren't comfortable putting you out doing one thing continuously for an hour, then how in the world am I supposed to ask you in 3 short months to do that same thing for 5 hours? So I'm not saying you can't run the marathon and we can't train for it. What I'm saying is we can have a really successful race without breaking your body in the process. I've given you more than what you need to be trained and prepared and ready to go. The rest is up to you. I would definitely say that for a 7-hour finish time, though, you're going to have to take in fuel. So we definitely think of the long runs as time to experiment and make sure that you treat everyone as a learning experience, making sure that you get what you need over time while you're out there. And getting what you need needs to be done free of judgment. Best marathon, I kept my long run at 3 hours. Yep. Well, that's because you run yourself into the ground, Yuko-chan. I love you, Yuko-kun. I really do. I think the world of you. And you and Karen Schluter are 2 of my hardest working athletes, and I could not respect or love you more. And when I write these rules, like I said last week, I call it the Karen Schluter problem. I have to get Karen Schluter what she wants and make sure that she doesn't destroy herself in the process, because she will. And I know that you're the same way, and I love you both. I really, really do. Please don't ever forget that. And I appreciate you speaking up and sharing your experience. I do. Everyone needs to hear it. This is our new girl, Nicole. I love you, and I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, you're going to be totally fine. And you ask all the coaches. You can ask Nakia, who has done more marathons probably than I have, to be honest. Like, there are all kinds of really experienced runners in here who are here for a reason, because I've only been doing this stuff on my own for right at a year. Fitness Protection only opened up in beta form last May. So I tell you that to underscore that In these moments when you aren't sure, ask the people around you. We also have the free support group Heart Rate Training for all of my current and former clients to go in there and talk about me behind my back. I don't monitor it. It is led by a couple of alumni runners who will, always give you the skinny free from my eyes. There you go. But you can always tag me in there too. I'm just saying, like, I'm not in there being like, what are they saying about me? I really wanted to have a space for all of my runners and all of my programs to be able to connect together. And people asked for it long enough. I went ahead and created it. So there you go. And I'm really happy that you're here too, Nicole. I really am. I can't tell you how delighted I was when you reached out and said, I heard you on a podcast. I'm like, yes, thank you. Okay, now moving over to the questions in Maintain. Change the banner. Hi, Coach. I'm struggling with what I believe is the dreaded plantar fasciitis for the past few weeks. I'm sorry. I'm having a lot of pain in the bottom of my heel, especially when barefoot. Sounds right. Been doing all the things you suggest in terms of rolling, scraping, and stretching, and it does seem to provide some short-term relief, but I've got a ways to go before this is over. My question is threefold. Number one, it doesn't hurt to run, and the pain doesn't seem better or worse. Is there any reason you can think of that I should stop running? No. If it doesn't hurt while you run and you can manage the pain afterwards, you're good. Number two, is there anything else I can do aside from the things you've already suggested that could help heal this, or should I just keeping on? I'm going to have to check with Aaron. Aaron, if you're still on, let me know. Did we recreate? We haven't recreated the plantar fasciitis video yet, but there are 3 moves. One is where I take the edge of a wooden spoon and I kind of roll it into a certain point on my heel. That is probably the most important thing you can do to assist your plantar fasciitis. The second is to release your soleus muscle. Now, when you look at your calf, I'm pretending like your calf's like a great big apple. The bigger muscle is the gastroc. And there's a teeny tiny muscle that's kind of hard to get to on the inside that protects your Achilles tendon insertion point, and that is called your soleus. That needs to be released a lot. And we do that with what I call a super friend move. You need a really, really, really hard foam roller and a friend to help you out with this. And the third move is it has to do with scraping the shins, which kind of like is similar to a Graston method. Though it sounds like you know the first two, you might know the third. I think throwing that in could go a long way towards it. But we also need to look at your footwear. And again, the events of this week, I had meant to record the foot thing on Friday, and I didn't get a chance to do that for obvious reasons that I don't feel the need to go too deeply into again. But I will be that is on my list of things to do, where I show you my socks and how I put shoes on and why that matters, because a lot of the dysfunction in our feet and the stickiness in our shins comes from over relying on our shins because we're not using our feet at all. They are so cushioned and bound that they can't do the bare minimum of what we need them to do. And that creates dysfunction all the way up a chain, which is not saying you need to throw all your shoes away and start running in like tire treads that you've tied to your feet, like that book Born to Run. But rather, maybe we can scale back some of the things that we're doing and really take a look at what our feet are able to do while we're out there. And that can go a long way towards assisting in all of in alleviating some of the pressures that cause and aggravate and exacerbate plantar fasciitis. So it seems like Erin is not here because she would have said something already. I'll find it and come back to everyone, I promise. Sorry about that. Number 3, this has been going on for several weeks without much improvement. What clues could I look for to suggest there might be something more than plantar fasciitis? And do I need to see my doctor or PT? I would go to your PT right now if you can, unless you are in a hot spot and you are immunocompromised and live in a house with someone who is immunocompromised. A lot of providers are able to do a limited amount of telehealth right now. And frankly, the things that cause plantar fasciitis are easier to diagnose than other things that we might be able to do it in a Zoom. So I tell you that to tell you this, go ahead and call them. It never hurts. I would have called them after 3 or 4 days of it. But that's a good place to begin. No need to wait any longer. You're doing all the right things. Now let's go get some more things. Hello, Coach. The last several months I've been unpacking my own white privilege. I'm curious if you or anyone with the FPP have resources or suggestions of how to talk to children about these topics regarding racial injustice. I live in the Twin Cities and my 6-year-old is asking a lot of great questions. Thank you for providing space to ask these questions and have these conversations. I feel you. Number one, my dad's a civil rights attorney, so I've been around the ideas of excessive force and police brutality for a really long time. Now, this doesn't mean I'm anti-police. It means that I'm from a very small town where life is interconnected in a way that's hard to believe if you're not from there. Everyone is the gatekeeper of some asset that you need, and you cannot afford to piss anyone off ever. And so the person who in a small town who really does have a whole lot of power is probably not the person you want to have it. It's cop. And they can, and usually do, act with impunity due to the nature of the social structures. So it's catch-22. A police person's job is difficult and dangerous, and we have to give them a modicum of trust. The problem is, as our societies become overly litigious over time, there has been a change in the way that the police themselves. I'm not here to say those changes are good or bad. What I am here to say is that the system is in desperate need of reform and has been for a while. I am doing things at the moment, things that I'm professionally trained to do, and became involved with on a deeper level a long time ago. I actively discourage people from doing these things with me. If you look at my personal Facebook page, you can get an idea of what those things are and why I do them. They're not for everyone, and they don't need to be. Where you need to start, and I tell you that to underscore that my children don't know what I'm doing. I keep my gear hidden in my car. I run to the places, or I take lifts, and I don't put on my protective gear until I am out of eyesight from my block. My oldest and I have only kind of touched on the conversation. Mommy is going to, when there are people in trouble, part of mommy's job is to volunteer and show up and protect a couple of people and keep them safe the same way I do you. And I stop it there. So when it comes to your personal involvement, that's going to come down to what makes you and your spouse comfortable, and depends on you're going to know your kids a whole lot more than I will. I can't tell you what to tell them. I am a big believer in letting children be children. They've got the rest of their life to figure out how messed up the world can be at its worst. I am very hesitant, due to the nature of my own experiences, to say, and again, this is not that all police people are bad, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get a good one when you need them the most and when you make that call. So to make them aware that people are people, and everywhere you go, and that this country was founded on a system of checks and balances, and which they'll learn when they get into government history anyway. It's one of the things that I love the most about this country. And this country is only as great as those systems as those systems are strong. And right now, the systems are getting a little bit weaker in ways that are worrisome, and things are happening. So I would be very, very, very thoughtful. And I love that you're asking these questions. I will put some links to books that we've read together and places to start. But I would never recommend saying, like, you need to make sure your kids know they're not safe. I mean, especially if you're white, that's not necessarily the case. Painting any group with a broad brush is not going to end well. Not all white people are racists. Not all cops are bad. Not all Black people are criminals. And the world is not crazy. The world right now is really struggling to find that sense of balance. And it's the greatest part of America. And it really is. And I've told my children this too. This is what makes America really great, what's happening right now. Because the right to vote is the most important right. But the second most important right is the right to use your voice. This is what the country was founded on. There was a great big revolution, and a whole lot of people got really, really hurt, white people. And then they came here so that no one could ever tell them what not to say again. And no one ever will. So these demonstrations are part of a really incredible American tradition that we should be really proud of. The looting and the rioting tends to happen when people feel unheard. There will be opportunists anywhere you go that are trying to break the rules for their personal benefit, regardless of color. And there will always be people who abuse power in any form that they can get their hands on it. But as long as we are paying attention to the system of checks and balances, and not waiting until the moment when it affects us and impacts our own liberties, then we're doing a beautiful thing. We're upholding our democracy. And each family is going to do it in a different way that works for them. So that's sort of what I tell my children about it. And very, very high level. What we're dealing with in Denver is a little bit different than what you're dealing with in the Twin Cities. And the issues that we have with policing are very different too. It varies a lot from region to region. So very high level. The thing to remember at the end of the day is privilege is not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to feel guilty about. No one wants you to feel guilty for having it. And until that moment comes where someone tells you, like some, privileged white dude is trying to tell me on my page right now, like, the police are wonderful. They always do their job. I'm like, yeah, of course they did. The system is designed for you, not for me. And I'm going to tell you about a very specific time when they failed me and hope that you'll back off and shut up. But privileged people never do. So there are a lot of people right now who are saying, well, I put this on my Facebook page and my Black friends haven't told me there's something wrong with it. And I'm like, that's not their job. Your Black friends probably tuned your feet out a whole long time ago. They don't want to get into this with you because there are a few things, as we've seen this past week, there are a few things more dangerous than trying to tell a white lady that she's wrong. I guess what I'm really trying to get at is, as long as you're willing to engage in these types of thoughts and conversations, then the odds are already so much higher that you're going to do the right thing by your children than if you refuse to show any sort of weakness or ask these questions or look for proof that you must be doing it right because no one stopped you yet, which is all kind of nonsense. So I want you to know that I love you, and I'm glad that you asked. And when it comes to specific books, I'll point out some more resources. But these, as a woman, as radical as this might sound, these are conversations I've been having with my kid for a while. Once upon a time, this is Tilly the Terrible Swede. Once upon a time, women were not allowed to wear pants, and her parents kicked her out of the house. And that was in, by the way, the 1900s. Yay. And she was a world champion racer. We talk about how women didn't have the right to get their own credit card until 1983. How it was legal to fire women who were pregnant. It's still technically legal. There are ways to do it legally now, but it didn't officially become illegal until right after I was born, and I'm really old. So there are lots of conversations we were already having about equity and equality long before this happened. But what's happening in Minneapolis right now is really close to you in a way. So I really want to be sensitive about how you go about it. Because and I will end on this, if we talk, it is too easy to call Amy Cooper a racist. It is too easy. It's lazy and it's wrong. And that I won't do. Now, if a Black person wants to call Amy Cooper racist, cool. I'm never going to argue with them. But when a white person does it, I push them a little bit. Really. Why? And I push them down that rabbit hole because there's a lot that we don't want to talk about in that moment. We just want to separate ourselves from her as much as possible. I'm not that type of white person. Really? If you can't identify the invisible power structures, the lever that she pulled, and why it would work in this case but wouldn't work in others, that was the act of someone who is relatively powerless in her circles and forgets how powerful she can be in those moments. If you're not unpacking that, then you're being lazy by calling her a racist. Because it's more than that. It's too easy to slap the R word on things and walk away. And it's too easy to look at looting and rioting and saying, well, that's no way to go about it, without looking at all the factors that would have made this happen. Because it's not like people wake up, and I'm sure some people do. The people who wake up and are like, I'm just going to steal things today, might not have any other way to get what they need. They might be struggling in this period of pandemic, feeling not seen, not heard, and like they have absolutely nothing left to lose. Why not? So most crimes in this country are crimes of opportunity, and some are of necessity, but almost all of them are opportunity. So if we aren't looking at why this is happening, if we're just putting a label on it and putting it in a box, then we're basically inviting it to happen again. So that's a lot to discuss with your child. But it's important not to paint it all in terms of black and white, good and bad, racist, not. It needs to be a little bit more nuanced. And there are lots of resources that'll help you do that. But congratulations on being aware of privilege and wanting to do something with it and educate your child about it. I'm here for it. This isn't really about maintain, so no hard feelings if you prefer not to answer. I'm wondering if you have any advice for helping older kids stay active. Pokemon Go! I've talked about it before. I love Pokemon Go. It's so great. We've managed for the past couple months with some active days and some lazy ones. But the longer we go without team sports, summer camps, riding a bike to your friend's house, the harder it is to get my daughter motivated to do anything other than stare at a screen. My almost 13-year-old likes bouldering and swim team, which won't be an option for a while. She's too much a teen to work out with mom, and she hasn't found anything active she wants to do solo. I feel like I've used up about 90% of my ideas, so I'm asking the coach. All right, this is been an ongoing thing in our household too, because my daughter, my oldest, has really gotten to theater in a really big way, and she is preparing a stage production that the world might not ever see of The Wizard of Oz in her bedroom, and trying to get her to come out of her bedroom because she's practicing with her stuffed animals and she's doing this by herself. I'm like, you know what, kids were not meant to, kids that age, it is not normal to want to spend that many hours physically, like it is more normal to want to be in the room next to you doing your own thing than it is to be in your room doing your own thing. That doesn't come until much later. Out of sight, out of mind. And most kids that age, it is developmentally normal to want to be physically proximate to the caregivers in order to feel safe. So when I realized that she's been in her room practicing for 2-3 hours, I'm like, whoa, this isn't good. And we have a conversation. And my son doesn't like going outside at all. So why Pokemon Go is even starting to lose its luster. And I'm like, wait, I got this really wild duck and it shoots fire out its booty. Let's go get it. So I'm having to come up with like more and more outlandish ways to get him re-involved in this game because its luster is wearing off. Everyone is in the middle of something right now. This has already been going on a lot longer than we expected it to. And there are other things happening in the country right now that are adding to the stress and the override, the overwhelm that leads to apathy. So let's start with the conversation about that. Maybe this isn't a lack of motivation more than maybe it's not that we need to find motivation. It's that we need to remove or address the emotions that would be blocking said motivations. Because to tell you what, if you were to tell her she had to stay home and wasn't allowed to leave, she would find 100 ways to get out the house without you knowing. So it's start there with her feelings and start with, do you think these two are connected? How are you sleeping? Are you having really vivid dreams? I'm having really vivid dreams. I dreamed the other night we watched another Stakeout with Rosie O'Donnell, and I dreamed I was on Bainbridge Island. Really weird. I've never been there. But I had this really vivid dream that I was there and I couldn't open the door to get out to the bay. Really bizarre. But this is a period where a lot of people, it's a thing right now. I'm having really vivid dreams. How about you? I'm feeling really overwhelmed. How about you? Find some way to sit down and connect and understand that it can be a little weird at first if they're not used to having conversations like this with you, like they're being put on the spot or like they're in trouble or being punished because what you're doing is very unusual. So you need to find a way to kind of put yourself out there too. Say like, hey, you know what? I am really overwhelmed right now and I don't feel like doing anything. How about you? Relate it to your running. And just be open and honest. Start there. Because what I have found over time, especially with my adult runners, it's not a lack of motivation. It's something else because we're never really talking about the running. And in this case, I would say we're probably not talking about their activity level either. So it's not the thing that you need to find, like it's out there. I just got to go to the right store, find the right place to deliver it to me. But rather it's something in here that we need to move aside that's going to open up other stuff. And there might be some suggestions that they want to do too. And maybe, there are ways that we can reconcile what you're able to do with what she wants to do. Because if we take away all of the things that she likes, and she can't think, well, okay, so if I can't see my friends, then maybe I can do this, and maybe I could do this. And she comes up with alternatives. Once all of those alternatives have been shut down, the desire to come up with new ideas themselves can go away. And that is not resignation as much as it is depression. So not trying without pathologizing your child at all. The problem might not be exactly what you think it is. Let's start with a really open dialogue, address the feelings, and then talk about all the things. Like, what do you really want to do? If you could do a few things right now, what would they be? Maybe bouldering is out of the question, but there's a tree that she and a friend could go to and climb somewhere. I don't know. I'm making stuff up. Maybe there is some way that we can find the second best in a way that keeps her connected to you, and knowing that you care can go a really long way towards that. Because after a while, if you're like throwing out suggestions, she's rejecting all of them, you're going to get frustrated with her and she's going to get frustrated with you. And that's kind of the opposite of what you want. So know that you're an amazing parent. I know you might feel like a crappy parent because you're having to ask for help. You might feel like a crappy parent because this is happening. But I tell you what, you're an amazing parent for asking. You're an amazing parent for wanting to have that connection with your child. You're an amazing parent for exploring options instead of beating yourself up and making the problem hurt. Because that's the other thing. I really don't have a lot of time for lazy thinking, but we all do it. Well, I couldn't come up with, yeah, well, it's you, it's this, it's that. And then putting a label on a person and pushing them away rather than actually connecting with them. You are making this attempt to genuinely connect. And I absolutely love you for it. If you have time this week for marathon taper, do I remember that you suggest skipping the strength for the last week? Yes, I do. You don't need it. All you can do is hurt yourself, and we need to reduce the odds of hurting yourself. Taper tips, remember that you don't need, it's going to be tempting to fill up all your spare time with food. Don't do it. And if you feel a little like, that's normal and that's good. That means you're prepared. Your central nervous system is singing. We have taken away some of the stressors placed on it. Please don't fill them up with discovering what's going on in the world right now, because it can be a little bit much. But those are the big things. Don't do anything you wouldn't normally do because you have a little extra time. This is not the time to be like going through the to-do list or cleaning out the closet or cleaning out the shed or mowing the yard to get a little, like, don't try to offset the extra downtime with more workouts, because that is not going to lead anywhere good. That's just going to use up energy that you really need for race day. So yay and good luck. And don't forget to let us know when your race is, and keep us posted while it's going on so we can cheer you on. It's a big deal. All right, finally, last question. Here we are in build. When I do silly toes, I don't really feel any different after. That's okay. How do I know if I'm doing right? And how do I know if I'm sufficiently warmed up to run? This isn't about physiologically preparing your body to be warmed up. So we're going to do the warm-up series, which is the silly toes. It's to prepare your joints and your ankles and your ligaments in very subtle ways. So no, I'm not surprised that you don't feel any different. You will notice it over time. The one day you don't do it, you'll be like, my run didn't feel so good. Oh, you know what? I didn't do the silly toes. So it's the sort of thing that isn't going to show up right away. And then you still have to warm up. You still have to warm up your muscles easing into the run. It's not like that's the warm up. That's it. I'm not warm, So warming up is a process. We ease into it. First, we prepare the tendons, muscles, and ligaments with the dynamic warm-up. Then we start jogging really slowly and sort of ease into. You can even see it on my Strava. It usually takes me a quarter mile to sort of like work it out and get into it. And when I'm fully fit and I'm training for something and I'm doing like tempo runs and stuff, it takes me a full 22 minutes to mentally be locked into that run. And that's something that I've learned over time. You'll get to know your number 2 over time as well. Don't expect to have it by the end of build. But everybody here can attest to, ask anyone in Maintain, ask anyone in Rebuild who has run with me or done a training cycle with me before. There will come a point when I'm not truly warmed up and ready until I'm 2 miles in. I don't, every long run sucks for the first half hour, and then something just wakes up and I'm ready to go. And the one day it doesn't, I stop and I go back in and I'm at minute 35. I don't feel any better. I call it, and then I go home and try to do my long run the next day. That's it. So again, this is not like, it would be a lot easier if our bodies were like a cup of tea. It's like, oh, it's warm. It's done. Ding. And could whistle. I can't whistle. That it would be a whole lot. Our bodies just don't work that way. So what we are doing over time is just getting your tendons, joints, and ligaments ready to go. And you'll notice it when you don't do it, once you get into these good habits of preventative joint care. But don't worry about it. You're not doing anything wrong. If you are trying it all, doing what you can, you're definitely doing it right. I had arthritis and pain in my left foot, big toe. It went away with a few weeks of silly toes. Yay! Good. I love hearing that. That's what it's all for. Arthritis degradation attracts inflammation, which decreases our desire to use certain muscles and certain parts of our body, which effectively impacts our ability to heal them. So it's the paradox of injury. There are whole books have been written about that, the paradox of injury, that like it's hard to do the thing. Like once you're injured, it can be hard, if not impossible, to do exactly what you need to do in order to heal aforementioned injury. But there we are. Life is a mystery, but you are coached and loved and winning at life. Thank you. That's all the questions that we have. And just stay safe, everybody. Know that you are loved. I will post some resources in the comments later. I will also add them to the show notes when this is released in podcast form. Right now, I got to run downtown. I love all of you. Be safe, be safe, be safe, because I need you. The world is too. Bye.